Hello, today we're going to look at how to install the SD card logger as an add-on to your VEMS ECU. Here we have the main board for the ECU. Here's where the connectors solder on, so it goes in the case like this. And all you need to do is remove this back plate from the ECU, the one without the connectors on it, and you'll be able to install the SD logger straight from in the back of the ECU like this. So to give some detail, if you look at the board here, this is the ISP connector, and you may have this connector soldered on. There'd be 12 pin, and there's headers for it here. That's your LCD connector. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. It doesn't matter either way. So this connector right here is going to go on top of here, and you're going to want to line it up so that there's two pins that won't go on the connector, and those are at the very edge of the connector. And you'll see on the silk screen here there's two holes for it, but the header is not big enough, so you'll notice that those don't line up. There's no holes there. So all you do is you press it down, and that's it. After you get that done, you're going to want to hot melt along the map sensor line right here, just to keep it stable. So I have a cased ECU here, so I can show you that. So you go in the back of the ECU, you line up the pins, make sure you get all the pins in. You press it down to seat it. Once you have the SD logger fully installed, you'll notice that it rubs on the map line right here. Just run a bead of hot glue along the map sensor line, and it'll hold the board from vibration resistance. Plug in your SD card here that comes with it, and then you can close up the back plate on the case, and then set up the SD card in the software, which we'll show you in the next step. So hopefully that helps you get started for your install. Otherwise, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, feel free to send it in for repair. We'll be glad to do it. It only takes a few minutes. You usually get it out the same or next day, depending on when it arrives. So thank you very much. Okay, now that we've got the SD card logger installed, we're going to start it up on the bench, or if you have it installed in your car, just turn the ignition on, don't start the engine, and then we're going to configure the logger module. So just turn the ECU on. We're going to wait for it to connect here in just a second. There we go. So the first thing we're going to do is come up here to the ECU logger menu and ECU log settings. And then here we're going to enable the SD card logger. And your real-time logging condition is going to be whatever you would prefer. After first start is very popular. You can have it start logging at a wide open throttle actuator, which is settable in the Motorsports tab, or miscellaneous 1 or miscellaneous 2 conditions, which are also settable in the Motorsports tab. We'll just keep it after first start for here for convenience. And then the next one you're going to want to do is set the ECU log byte stuff format to enabled, and that'll actually log GPS settings if you do input a GPS data stream into the serials too. And then you can also enable the trigger log, but generally that's disabled. We'll burn that and close here. And the next thing we do is go down from Tools menu, go down to the SD card log, and we need to erase the card. So even if it's a brand new card, you're going to want to erase it. If you just upgraded your firmware, it's a really good idea to come in here and erase your SD card. Of course, save your previous logs first if you want to save any of them, and come in here and erase your card every time you upgrade the firmware, because the firmware will it'll actually give you an error if you go to start a log and the firmware has changed. But some different firmware levels have different amounts of data they log, so it's always a good idea to come in here and start fresh. So we erase the card, and then we see that the card is erased and empty, so we're well on our way. Next thing we're going to do is come back down here to SD card log, and we're going to start a log. And we see down in the corner, logging started, and we'll wait, 5 or 10 seconds, and then we're going to go back and we're going to stop the log. And the reason we're doing this is just to verify that it's working properly. So now we stop the log, go back to Tools, SD card log, and we'll search the SD files. It takes a little bit here to look at them. So there, we've got a 19-second log. The time isn't always right before you download it, but after it's downloaded, it'll autocorrect. So there we have a log, and as long as you can see a log there, you can delete it if you want because it's kind of a useless log, but or download it and check it out. That's all there is to it. So now every time the RPM starts going, the engine starts, the SD card is going to start logging, and it'll create a new file right here, and it's going to start do the reverse order of, so the newest one's going to be first, and the oldest one's going to be last. And that's all there is to it. Have fun, enjoy.